Welcome, children. Today we are going to discuss chapter number 15, Improvement in Food Resources. Today is our second session of this chapter. In our previous session, we studied about food resources and need for improvement of food resources. We also studied about type of crops and atmospheric conditions which are required for growth and development of different crop plants. We also studied about improvement in crop yields and the three stages of practices involved in farming. In today's session, we are going to study about major group activities for improving crop yields. These group activities can be divided into three parts: crop variety improvement, crop production improvement, and crop protection improvement. So let us begin with crop variety improvement. Children, I think you all must be aware of variety. You must be knowing about the varieties of apple, varieties of mango you get in your market. So here in this particular practice, we look for improving the crop variety by various methods. So crop variety improvement is a scientific approach which depends upon finding a crop variety that can give us good and better yield. Crop variety improvement depends on finding a crop variety that can give us good yield, and this can be done with the help of a very scientific process which is known as hybridization. Hybridization process is the process of formation of hybrids, and this formation of hybrids takes place by crossing between genetically dissimilar plants to obtain crops which are having desired characters in them. These desired characters can be disease resistance, more and more productivity in plants, and good yield and good production, etc. Hybridization may be intergenic or interspecific or intervarietal between two different types of varieties. So when hybridization is taking place or when crossing is taking place between two different varieties, that time this type of hybridization will be called as intervarietal hybridization. If the plants which are selected for hybridization process belongs to two different species of the same genus, in that condition it will be called as interspecific hybridization, or the third category, that is intergeneric hybridization, in which the plants of two different genera are allowed to cross and produce a new plant. So these are three different ways by which hybridization can be done to get desired characteristics in the crop plants. There is one more way to improve crop plants, that is by introducing genes into the plant, and this technique is called as GMO or genetically modified crops. So in this technique we get genetically modified crop by changing some of the genes of parental crop. Another way of improving crop varieties is by production of GM crops. GM crops means genetically modified crops, and these are the plants which are used in agriculture, and the DNA of these plants has been modified using genetic engineering methods in such a way that we can get desired characters by growing these plants on a larger scale. So as its name suggests, that GM crops means genetically modified crops in which the genes are changed or altered by some genetic engineering techniques to get desired characteristics in crop plants, and it aims to introduce a gene which is responsible for particular kind of character and which does not occur naturally in that species. So in this particular practice we select a gene which we want to introduce into another crop, and then by scientific method we introduce that gene into desired crop plant to get desired characters. One of the objective for developing plants based on genetically modified crops is to improve crop protection and crop production. The GM crops currently on the market are mainly aimed at an increased level of crop protection through the introduction of resistance against various plant diseases which can be caused by insects, viruses, or through increased tolerance towards herbicides, pesticides, etc. In this slide, you can see 10 different genetically modified foods. Children, some of you might get confused between the two different processes which I have discussed now, that is hybridization and genetically modified crops. So these two are totally different from each other. So let us study about the differences between these two type of processes. In this slide you can see two differently colored columns. Blue colored column is showing you the characteristics of GM crops, whereas the pink colored column is showing you the characteristics of hybridization process. And let us begin with the GM crops. In this a new plant whose genetic material is changed by genetic engineering techniques is produced, and in case of hybridization, new plant that is an offspring or the next generation of genetically dissimilar parents is achieved, and GM crop is produced by purely artificial process, whereas hybridization can be done naturally as well as artificially. The technique which is involved in production of GM crops is genetic engineering, and the technique which is involved in hybridization process is cross breeding. GM crops have introduced piece of foreign DNA which belongs to either same or different type of plant species, whereas in case of hybridization process, the offspring of either different varieties or different breeds or different species can be achieved. GM crops can produce a desired character in crop plant, and hybridization has a vigor which lies between the two parental organisms, and in GM crops sometimes a character which is generally seen is they show susceptibility to various diseases, whereas in case of hybridization process they have weaknesses such as infertility. So this is the biggest drawback with hybrid formation, that sometimes some of the hybrids are infertile or they are not able to produce their next generation. For new varieties of crops to be accepted as new variety, it is very necessary that the crop produces high yield under different environmental conditions that are found in different areas. So the farmers would need to be provided with good quality seeds of particular variety. That is, the seeds should all be of same variety and germinate under the same environmental conditions. Cultivation practices and crop yield are related to weather conditions, soil quality, and availability of water in that particular area. Since weather conditions such as drought, flood situations, and very heavy wind are unpredictable, so the varieties that can be grown in diverse climatic conditions are useful. So the variety which we are developing should be able to withstand in all the environmental conditions, and similarly the varieties tolerant to high soil salinity have been developed. Some of the factors for which variety improvement can be done are listed here, like the crop which is developed should have higher yield to increase more and more production of that crop in that particular area. Then it should have improved quality. That means the quality should be very good. It should be able to withstand in different climatic condition. And when we are talking about the type of crop which is used for baking purposes, that time the qualities of that particular crop will be different. Like in case of wheat, if we are developing a variety of wheat, then we will keep some unique characteristics in consideration. That is, it should have good nutrient value in it. It should have good baking quality in it. And when we are talking about pulses, or when we are talking about developing a variety of pulse, then we will look for the factor of protein content which is present in it. We know that pulses are very good sources of protein. So when we are developing a variety of pulse, that time we will keep in mind that it should have good taste, it should cook easily, it should have very high protein content in it. So, and similarly in the same way, when we are talking about developing a variety of any crop from which we can get oil, that time the consideration will be on improving more and more oil content in that particular seeds. So, or when we are talking about improvement of fruit variety, that time we will consider the characteristic of taste of fruit, nutrient value of fruit, shelf life of fruit, etc. There are some other type of factors also which are involved, that is biotic and abiotic resistance. Crops production can go down due to biotic and abiotic stresses under different climatic situations. Biotic stress can be a stress or attack of disease by insects, by nematodes, or by fungal, viral, or bacterial infection in the plant. And abiotic factors which are involved in this are drought, salinity, water logging in particular area, heat, cold, frost, etc. So the variety to which we are developing should be able to withstand with these all type of biotic and abiotic stresses. Another important factor for developing a new variety of crop is the crop should have change in maturity duration. Means the change in the sense that it should have shorter maturity duration. It should get matured, or it should be ready for harvest in lesser period of time. The shorter the duration of the crop from sowing to harvesting, the more economical is the variety of crop. Such short duration allows a farmer to grow many rounds of crops in that crop field within a year. So shorter duration also reduces the cost of crop production, and uniform maturity makes the harvesting process easy and reduces the loss during harvesting. So children, it is a very important point. While developing a new variety of crop, we should consider this point also. Now let us discuss about another factor, that is wider adaptability. Developing varieties for wider adaptability will help in establishing the crop production under different environmental conditions. You know that in India only, if you will take an example of India, there are different geographical areas in which climatic conditions are totally different. So we should have focus on developing a variety of crop which should be able to withstand, which should be able to grow in different climatic conditions. And in India, we see the conditions of drought, rainfall, or flood, or a heavy wind. So the variety should also be able to withstand with all such type of environmental stresses. Another factor which is important here is the crop variety should have desirable agronomic characteristics in it. For different types of crop, different characteristics are desired. Like tallness and profuse branching are desired in case of fodder crops which are given to animals as a food. Whereas in case of cereals, Dwarfness is a desired character. If the plant is dwarf, it will absorb less nutrient from the soil. Like this way, for different types of crops, the desired agronomic characters are different. Thus, developing varieties of desired agronomic characters help the farmer by giving higher productivity of crop. Children, now there are some questions for you. You have to write down the answer of these questions in your rough notebook. So the first question is, how do biotic and abiotic factors affect crop production? I am repeating the question again. How do biotic and abiotic factors affect crop production? And the second question is, what are the desirable agronomic characters for crop improvement? Now we will discuss about crop production management. In India, as in many other agriculture-based countries, farming ranges from very small to very large size farms. Different farmers have more or less land, money, and access to information and technology. Some farmers are very poor, whereas in some part of India the farmers are very, very rich in money also and in technology also. So in short, it is the money or the financial conditions that allows a farmer to take up different farming practices and agriculture technologies. If the farmer is rich, he can avail all the advanced equipments which are used in agriculture. He can avail very good variety seeds and he can grow very well. So there is a correlation between higher inputs and yields. Means if our inputs are more, we will get more and more yields. Thus, the farmer's purchasing capacity for inputs decides cropping system and production practices. So production practices can be at different levels. They can include no cost production, in which so much of money is not involved, or a kind of production which we do at our home in form of kitchen gardens. Low cost production, which is done by small farmers which are growing crop in a very small area, and high cost production practices, in which the crop production is done at a very larger scale involving a very high cost. So this crop production management includes three important steps, that is nutrient management, irrigation and cropping management. So let us begin with nutrient management. Children, you know that we all human being, animal require nutrient for their proper growth and development, for protecting their body from various disease. Like us only, plants also require these nutrients for their growth and development. Nutrients are supplied to plant through three different sources, that is by air, by water and through soil. There are total 16 nutrients which are essential for normal growth and development of plant, and out of these 16, the air supplies carbon dioxide and oxygen. Hydrogen comes from water and soil supplies the other 13 different types of nutrients to the plants. Among these 13 nutrients, 6 nutrients are required in very large amount, and these nutrients are called as macronutrients. The other 7 nutrients which are used by plant in very small amount are called as micronutrients. Here in this slide you can see the type of macro and micronutrient, in which the macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur, and micronutrients are iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum and chlorine. If these nutrients are not provided to plants in required amount, the plant will affect its physiological processes including reproduction, growth and development, susceptibility to different types of diseases, etc. To increase the yield of crop, the soil can be enriched by supplying these nutrients in the form of manure or fertilizers. So children, now we will discuss about manures and fertilizers. The deficiency of plant nutrient can result in abnormal growth and development and production of crop, that we all know. So what we can do to stop it or to get more and more production from such type of crops? By adding manures into that soil in which it is growing. Manure contains large quantities of organic matter and also supplies small quantities of nutrients to the soil. Manure is prepared by decomposition of animal excreta and plant waste. Like you must have seen that some people or the gardeners collect the leaves of plant and the wet garbage which is collected from your home. With all these things we can produce manure in our kitchen garden only or in our society only. So manure helps in enriching the soil with nutrients and organic matter and increases soil fertility. The bulk of organic matter in the manure helps in improving the soil structure. This involves increase in water holding capacity of soil in case of sandy soil. In clay soil, the large quantities of organic matter help in drainage and in avoiding waterlogging in soil. In using manure, we use biological waste material like the waste of your kitchen. Using manure to the crop plant is environment safe practice. There are so many advantages of using manure to the crop plants, that is, these manures replenish the general deficiency in the soil by providing various types of nutrient to the soil. The manure add organic matter to the soil which restores the soil texture for better reaction of water and for aeration of soil. Manure also increases water holding capacity and water absorbing capacity of soil. These manures can be of three types: compost, vermicompost and green manure. Now let us discuss about compost first. Composting is a biological process in which aerobic and anaerobic microorganisms decomposes organic matter into valuable manure which is called as compost. So in this process a major role is played by microorganisms which decomposes or break down the organic matter into compost. Now let us discuss about vermicomposting. Here also process is same, but major role is played by worms or the earthworms which help in formation of vermicompost. So vermicompost is the end result of worm decomposing organic matter to produce a usable, fertile source of worm castings that supplies vital nutrients and beneficial microbes to the soil and plants. Now let us discuss about this green manure. There are different types of green manure crops. Prior to sowing of the crop seeds, some plants like sun, hemp or guar are grown and then mulched by plowing them into the soil. These green plants thus turns into green manure, which helps in enriching the soil in nitrogen and phosphorus content. So here are some examples of green manure crops. Children, now let us discuss about fertilizers. Fertilizers are again providing nutrient to the soil, but here these fertilizers are formed by some chemicals. So fertilizers are commercially produced plant nutrients. Fertilizers supply nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. to plants. They are used for good vegetative growth in plants, and they are one of the major component for obtaining higher yields, especially in expensive farming. On the availability of nutrients from them, fertilizers can be divided into following groups. The first one is nitrogenous fertilizers. These are urea, ammonium sulfate and nitrate. Second group is phosphoric fertilizer, which include dicalcium phosphate, triple superphosphate, single superphosphate, etc. and potassic fertilizers, which include potassium nitrate, and the last one is complex fertilizers, which include nitrophosphate, ammonium phosphate, urea ammonium phosphate, etc. So fertilizers should be applied very carefully in terms of proper dose, time and observing pre and post application precautions for their complete utilization. For example, sometimes fertilizers get washed away due to excessive irrigation and are not fully absorbed by the plant. This excess fertilizer then leads to water pollution and soil pollution. Continuous use of fertilizers in an area can destroy soil fertility because the organic matter in the soil is not replenished and the microorganisms which are present in soil are harmed by the chemicals which are present in fertilizers. So short-term benefits of using fertilizers and long-term benefits of using manure should be compared before using these two different types of things. Let us discuss about the differences between manure and fertilizers. Manure is a natural substance and it is obtained by decomposition of animal waste and plant residues. Fertilizers are made by human in artificial setup. It is inorganic salt or an organic composition. A manure contains a small amount of essential plant nutrients, whereas in case of fertilizers, they contain a very rich amount of plant nutrients. A manure adds a great amount of organic matter in the form of humus in the soil. A fertilizer does not add any humus into the soil. Manure is insoluble in water and thus the nutrients present in manure is absorbed by plants very slowly. Whereas in case of fertilizers, being soluble in water, a fertilizer is very quickly absorbed by the roots of plant. A manure is not nutrient specific and tend to remove the general deficiency from the soil. In case of fertilizers, a fertilizer is a nutrient specific and it can specifically provide nutrient to the soil according to the crop need. A manure is voluminous and bulky, so it is inconvenient to store, transport and handle and apply to the crop plants. Whereas in case of fertilizers, it is compact, concentrated, so it is easy to store and transport and apply to the crop plant. One major difference here is that manures are always environment friendly, so manure never leads to any kind of soil pollution or water pollution, whereas in case of fertilizers, it is made up of some chemicals, so excessive use of that fertilizers in a crop field can result in soil pollution, water pollution and even it can lead to barrenness in that land where it is used. In case of manure, it can be produced very easily without so much of money involved in it. Whereas in case of fertilizers, we need to purchase it from market, so money is involved here. So using fertilizers is a very costly affair, whereas using manure is very cheap and environment friendly approach to provide nutrients to the plants. Now there is one more aspect, that is organic farming. And nowadays this term is very common. You must have heard about organic vegetables, organic fruit juices, etc. So what does this mean, name organic mean? Artificial fertilizers, which are made up of chemicals, are always harmful for the environment. So artificial fertilizers are banned in organic farming. Organic farmers use animal manure, compost, and human sewage, which has been heated to destroy any harmful microbe present in it, to make their crops grow. Organic farming works in harmony with nature rather than against it. This involves using techniques to achieve good crop yields without harming the natural environment or the people who live and work in it. Organic farming is a farming system in which minimal or no use of chemicals as fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, insecticide, etc. is used, and with maximum inputs of organic manures, recycled farm waste, and use of bioagents such as cultures of blue-green algae in preparation of biofertilizers. Neem leaves or turmeric, specifically in storing the grains, are used as biopesticides. With healthy cropping system like mixed cropping, intercropping, and crop rotation, these cropping systems are beneficial in insects, pest, and weed control, beside providing nutrients to the crop plant. Children, now let us wrap up what we have done in this session. In this session, we started the session with crop variety improvement, in which we studied about the two main ways by which we can improve crop varieties. These were hybridization process and genetically modified crops. Then we discussed about the factors for which variety improvement is done, in which we studied about the various factors like higher yields, improved quality of crop, biotic and abiotic resistance in crop, change in maturity duration of crop, wider adaptability in crop, and desirable agronomic characters in crop. Then we studied about crop protection management, in which we started first type of management, that is nutrient management, which can be done by two ways: by adding manure or by utilizing fertilizers into the crop plants.